Hello and welcome. So how's the American auto market doing these days? We have two experts on the line with us to share their thoughts. Bertrand Rakoto, you cover the auto market for Ducker Carlisle, a consulting company based in Detroit. Hello and welcome.
Hello.
And Tuli, you are managing director of Sino Auto Insights, also a consulting company, and you operate out of China and the USA. Tu, hello, it's great to have you back.
Edward, nice. Thanks for having me again.
First thing I want to ask, how is the US auto market doing these days in the context of the approaching US election? Bertrand, what do you think?
The US auto market is still in a recovery mode from what we've seen during COVID, where the volume was dropping tremendously because of supply chain issues. So we're seeing a market that is growing, but growing back to pre-COVID levels. So it's not a growth that is really showing a market peak, but it's something where we're going back to about 16 million vehicles being produced. We're not there yet. We're looking forward to having it within the next 2 years, and sales are pretty high as well.
And so can you give me an update on the competitive situation with China, especially regarding EVs? Is the US auto industry still losing ground? Too, that's maybe a question you want to take.
So Ford is effectively left the China market. Stellantis is retrenching and has updated their strategy, partnering with the Chinese automaker for the China market, but also the European market. GM has been struggling for the last several years. They're looking to recover. I was just in Beijing for the auto show. They showed off 3 clean energy vehicles, 1 electric vehicle, a Cadillac, and 2 PHEVs from Chevrolet. So I want to say GM at least is trying to find a bottom in the China market. And we're still seeing growth in the NEV sector, or new energy vehicle sector in China. We should hit probably around 10 million units this year. So still the largest market for clean energy vehicles in the world. And it's something that the US 3 and China want to be a part of for sure.
Now, we all remember the figures published at the end of last year where BYD took over from Tesla as the #1 EV seller worldwide. Is that push still going strong?
So BYD is in over 70 countries right now. Last week, the European Union had announced the tariffs, and BYD got off with a slap on the wrist effectively. So this is what I would call a non-win-win for BYD. So it looks like they'll still aggressively move into Europe, and they're continuing to launch new vehicles, new technologies. They just announced new hybrid technology, DMI5. So they're moving full steam ahead for sure. And with Tesla either going to have flat sales this year or shrink a little bit, I think BYD is going to distance itself a little bit in 2024 from Tesla.
And how about the other Chinese automakers?
We're in the 18th month of a price war that actually Tesla started. So it's interesting to see how they're continuing to bring out new features, bring out new products. Some companies are even bringing out new brands. And so just in order to maintain sales, I think clearly BYD is head and shoulders above everyone else. Tesla, via price cuts, has kind of maintained sales, monthly sales, 40, 50, 60,000 units per month. But we're just getting out into summer. And so we won't see a mad dash until around August, September. And that'll give us a better indication of how the brands, the products are doing in the China market. But it's still ultra competitive.
Bertrand, what's your take?
I would say the American car makers are not really trailing if you look at the North American market itself. The Chinese situation is really different, and I think it was well explained by Tools. So it's just that North America is slower to adopt EVs. And car makers here are launching a lot of products. We are in the 8-9% of the market now being EVs, which is a pretty strong increase compared to the past years. We still have a lot of new models to come in the North American market to support that growth. But the market is also moving towards more competitive vehicles. What we call mid-America here needs to be served. And it means cheaper vehicles more simple vehicles. People are not seeking for high tech, but for something that is affordable and that can take them from point A to point B, what we call commuters here. So we see GM, Ford starting with different vehicles here. Stellantis is also coming, with a slower pace than others. But given the size of the market for electrification here in North America, the car makers are having a pretty strong product launch. The problem is that since the beginning of the year, we're showing a plateau here in the EV sales. And that plateau is indicating that to car makers that maybe they should slow down in the launch of new models. So there are mixed signals, I would say, that may mitigate a little bit the expected growth that we had in EVs. But at the same time, we see that car makers are still showing a strong product plan with local productions. So I would say that the situation is different in every region right now, particularly when looking at electrification.
Now, there's one aspect where I'd really like to get both of your opinion. We've seen recently both the US and Europe setting pretty stiff trade barriers on a number of Chinese automakers. What do you make of it? Bertrand, what are your thoughts?
The situation is pretty clear. China is coming with products that are better developed towards electrification because China has mastered that technology for a longer time than other regions. Also, China has a more integrated supply chain for producing EVs. So there's a price advantage that China can cultivate when going to other markets. And for the other regions like North America and Europe, to be competitive, they need a little more time. So they bought themselves a little bit of time by putting some tariffs so that China does not invade the market with brands like BYD and XPeng and NIO and so on. And what might be a situation evolving towards the future is to make sure that if the Chinese car makers, for example, are willing to come to North America and sell vehicles here in the US, the idea is that they respect the USMCA regulations, which means 75% of the vehicle must be produced here in North America, which would force some Chinese car makers coming through Mexico to source a lot more components and materials here in the North American market to become eligible to first, avoid the tariffs, but also get the tax credits that, for example, the US is giving. So it's more of a slowdown and then really a ban of Chinese car makers.
Tu, what's your take on the trade barrier drama?
I'm going to be a lot less politically correct than Bertrand. I think that the U.S. government, the EU, believe and fear that the Chinese automakers would, as in Elon's words, demolish the legacy automakers. That's why you see Volkswagen Group buying a 10% stake in XPeng and Stellantis buying a 20% stake in Leap Motor, two Chinese EV brands. And the United States, not much farther behind. The only real defense they have is Tesla, and Tesla is long in the tooth on their two high runners or their highest sales products. And you can take it from me, who was in Shanghai for the auto show last year and Beijing recently. These products are legitimate, and if they're priced properly, without 100% tariff, without a 50% tariff, they would sell. Americans would buy them, Europeans would buy them, and that's what the U.S. government and the EU fears. Now, given a 2 or 3 year window, because let's say full entry pushes out 2 to 3 years because of these tariffs, I don't know if the legacy automakers can move fast enough to bring competitive products to market. So it might be delaying the inevitable. I'm hoping that the legacy automakers can learn how to build electric vehicles, batteries, and develop software in the next 24 to 30 months, because if not, they're going to continue to struggle.
Okay, well, it's good to know. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with me today. Everyone, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.